Hey logical listeners, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am going to be talking about independence-seeking Puerto Ricans. I'm going to be talking about language, bias, and exclusion. And because of the heavy nature of those topics, I wanted to front-load this video. And unlike a lot of the other videos that I have front-loaded, I didn't film this part last. So what you're going to be seeing after this is raw conversational things that people should think about when they're talking about independence-seeking Puerto Ricans. And I know that in a lot of Americanized and in a lot of English and even in a lot of Puerto Rican spaces, the terms that people use are often terms like nationalists. But those terms carry certain weights and they remind people of a range of different things that are not representative of all people who seek Puerto Rican independence. And I don't believe that I am going to convince you to become an independence-seeking person regardless of whether or not you are from Puerto Rico, regardless of what you think of Puerto Rico, and regardless of what you know about Puerto Rico's history and the ongoing struggle to determine Puerto Rico's path forward. But I do think that hopefully I can convince us that there is a need for an important conversation here that is comprehensive, that is open, and that is inclusive. And that is my goal with this video, and if that is not achieved, then I hope to at least help us to begin a conversation. And with all that being said, I'll see you at the other end of the video. So Doc, I really need to talk about something, but I know that it's going to be a little bit, how should I put this? It's not going to be the easiest conversation to have, not necessarily because it's unpopular, but because I don't really know how popular it is or isn't, and also because people have powerful reactions about it one way or another. Well, Luciano, you know that through the past we have talked about this being an open and non-judgmental space, and I would hope that by now you know that to be true. So just lay it on me. I'm interested in what has you this preoccupied, because you're not exactly known for being how can I put this sensitively? You're not exactly known for being subtle. Doc, you look a little bit you look pretty casual today. It's not bad, it's just different. Also, man, even you, a thought form for me, can't say my name correctly. It's Luciano. And I know that it's not exactly the most, I guess, logical way to say my name. There is no, like, CH producing sound, but that's the way my name is supposed to be said. That said, part of the reason I have been thinking about this is that it's been eating away at me ever since I got onto YouTube. You know, I've actually been on YouTube most of my life in some form or another. I've been on YouTube somewhat actively since about 2008. I've been making videos as early as 2009, 2010. But especially lately, I've wanted to have a conversation with someone about the various feelings I have about Puerto Rican independence seeking. And I know that right off the bat, a knowledgeable person like you could probably have questions about the wording that I chose to use. Oh yeah, it's Casual Friday. I'm digging it. I'm feeling myself. I'm just trying to have some little confidence. That said, yeah, you know what, you're right, I do have a question. When you say things like independence seeking, that is a little bit different than some of the words that I've heard before. The sort of rhetoric that I tend to hear as a person who cares about and reads about Puerto Rico a whole lot, I tend to hear things like nationalist thrown around, and I think that that's fascinating, somewhat questionable word choice, and I'm hoping that because you are the smarty that you are, that you'll just sort of naturally inform me without me having to ask too many questions. But yeah, could you talk a little bit about some of that word choice there, both yours and your thoughts on some of the other word choice that people see? Casual Friday is pretty cool, 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 cool. That said, so yeah, the word choice that I chose was specific and intentional because most people associate Puerto Rican independence seeking with Puerto Rican nationalism. And nationalism in English, especially, is often a pejorative term that has specific connotations that don't always sync well with the realities and the complex history of the Puerto Rican nationalistic movement, the Puerto Rican Nationalistic Party, and also so-called Puerto Rican nationalists. And the reality is that this term, though it might not be the intention of the term, can be a term that is used as a way to sort of pressure folks into not having the sorts of nuance and developed conversations that this topic genuinely deserves. Puerto Rican independence seeking is a slightly different term that is a little bit less loaded and also is a little bit more inclusive because Puerto Rican independence and Puerto Rican freedom seekers are not only limited to people who have affiliations with the Puerto Rican Nationalistic Party. I also think it's critically important that we talk about actual examples of alternatives to, I suppose, what some might call Puerto Rican nationalism in the form of alternative independence seekers. One example of this, and I'm not saying that this is a very popular alternative, I'm merely stating the reality that this is an alternative that exists, is the Puerto Rican Independence Party. And that is an alternative that exists that shows people that these sort of political traditions of independence seeking in Puerto Rico are more diverse than what people have been led to believe and that the current state of discourse currently suggests. These are things that are worth knowing if people want to have complex and comprehensive conversations about Puerto Rico and about Puerto Rico's relationship with the United States and with other countries all around the world. I think the fact that you could name even one tradition or one movement that exists as an alternative to so-called Puerto Rican nationalism is a good thing. I think the fact that you have like specifics that you can talk about helps, even if you didn't mention all those specifics right now. I think that that's something that goes to show that your point is more than just fluff, and hopefully that will convince folks that there's merit to having a further intellectual conversation about this. That said, you talked about there being a certain, I suppose, power to words like nationalists and nationalism. Do you mind expanding upon that for a little bit? I can absolutely do that. So, the word nationalist and the word nationalism are powerful words that, particularly in the United States and in English, carry a lot of weight. Perhaps now more so than at various other points in history. And it's important that we be conscious of that when we try to have conversations about topics like this, especially if the conversations that we're having are not limited to being, if not heard, then observed somehow by people who don't have the same cultural background, cultural knowledge, and historical and political knowledge that we do. Understanding this is one of the things that needs to be done if we're going to have an honest and open conversation about the future of Puerto Rico's status and relationship with the United States. Ultimately, it's important that we consider how certain words in English would reflect the people that we are associating them with, and ultimately whether or not that is an accurate reflection, as well as whether or not that tells the full story. And by the full story, I don't just mean all the details in this particular page of the story, I actually mean the full story, including talking about alternatives and things that have led up to this particular moment in time. So, can you do me a favor and can you talk about your feelings? I want to know how all of this honestly makes you feel. And it's okay to be raw, it's okay to be honest. This is, in fact, a place where you can express those feelings and where we can talk about them. Oftentimes, what I see in my spaces are people having conversations wherein, even if they don't agree with each other, we can often understand where people are coming from. And I think that if I sat down and talked about all the reasons why it is that I am personally inclined to try and fight in favor of a free Puerto Rico, I think that people would at the very least understand my point of view. But I do feel as though people are worried about the fact that one of the most popular labels, and one of the labels that people from outside of Puerto Rico like to put on them, is the label of being a nationalist. And honestly, I think that that's an understandable fear given what is going on here and given how it is that people talk about a specific tradition of independence seeking in Puerto Rico and of independence seeking for Puerto Rico from within the United States, which is the only tradition that people seem to be able to remember outside of Puerto Rico. And I feel very frustrated that it is difficult for us to initiate a nuanced and detailed conversation. And it's something that frustrates me greatly as someone who cares about seeing a day wherein people in Puerto Rico are happy and they're free and they're treated with respect by a government that cares about them and by a government that empowers them. And I don't mean this as an attack on Puerto Rican politicians. I mean this as an attack on the systems that control and restrain efforts by Puerto Rican politicians, at the very least efforts that are made in good faith out of a genuine desire and hope and belief that things can be better tomorrow than they are today. Those are understandably heavy emotions, but I am going to ask you, now that you've said that, what do you think you can do to make things better? Do you think that there's anything that you can do? I'm genuinely curious. And knowing you, you probably do have things that you think you can do, and even things that you think other people can do that would make this an easier conversation, or at the very least, a more fair and more open dialogue. I think that I can do something just by posting this. And I also think that I can do something by creating a space wherein people are free to talk about how they feel about this topic. Because I think that a lot of people want a space where they can learn about this and where they can chime in with their own insights. But I also think that people are scared to initiate that conversation themselves. And I think that even if people don't agree with how it is that I think things would be done, I do think that most people can agree that we have a common shared goal, which is the improvement of the lives of the people of Puerto Rico. And honestly, since that is our goal, we can go about making it happen in a range of different ways. And as long as we agree and as long as we believe that we're all acting in good faith and that we're doing our best, I think that there's worth to creating spaces for conversations, to creating opportunities to be heard, and doing a wide range of things that activists do, and that community organizers do, and that dialogue creators do. And I'm hoping that what this video has done and that what I've done by sharing it is give folks, whether they know me or not, whether they're Puerto Rican or not, whether they are people who are aware of all of these things, opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow, and hopefully opportunities to make opinions that reflect their sense of values, even when those sense of values and the decisions that come about from them don't necessarily agree with me. Because a free Puerto Rico where people would be free to do what they want, is a place where Puerto Ricans and where our friends and allies can be honest with ourselves, and where we can engage in real conversations, openly, intelligently, and honestly. Hey friends, welcome back. So that video was fascinating, and the reality is, I am going to upload this video. And in the future, I might do it again, because I feel as though I have improved as a YouTuber over the course of the last couple of years, and as a consequence, I believe that I'm going to continue improving as a YouTuber, as a commentator, as a presenter, and as a creative. And because of that, I think it's okay for me to revisit videos and for me to share improved techniques, change perspectives, and more in the future. So this is an open invitation for future me to make a video talking about this video, or for me to even remake this video at a future date reflecting any changes in opinion or improvements in style. And it's also an open invitation for y'all to have a conversation with me and for us to learn from each other, because it's not just me who's out here to teach, I'm also out here to learn. And I know that y'all aren't also just out here for one thing, you're out here for multiple things. And I know that y'all have knowledge that you can share with me, insights that I can benefit from, even and oftentimes especially when those insights disagree with some of the stuff that I've said and some of the opinions that I have. That said, I can't wait to see you guys around, and I hope that you're going to be joining me in my live streams this weekend. I'm going to be live streaming with Sassy Atheist on Sunday, and I'm going to be doing an Asexuality O'Clock live series, live stream on Saturday. Farewell, friends. Peace out.